Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Hidden Chamber. Somewhere around the 6th century BC, a group of Greeks founded the city of Neapolis. The city grew to be a major trading center in the Mediterranean, but when the Roman Republic began to expand just a few centuries later, the city was quickly absorbed. By 327 BC, Neapolis was incorporated into the Roman Republic. Under the control of the Romans, Neapolis became a truly powerful city. It was adorned with temples, great public baths, and was connected directly to the capital by a major Roman road. As time wore on, the city became built up more and more. Its name also changed from Neapolis to Naples. 2,600 years later, the original city of Neapolis, built by Greek colonists, is buried underneath the modern city of Naples in Italy. It's approximately 30 feet below street level in the Sanita neighborhood. Archaeologists from various institutes, including the University of Naples and the University of Nagoya, conducted a study of the lost city buried beneath the ground. The team used muography to look underneath solid stone to the depths of the inaccessible ruins of Neapolis. In case you don't know, muography involves using highly charged particles sent from cosmic rays in the atmosphere. These particles are picked up by detectors placed underground to measure how they fluctuate over a period of several weeks. The particles are fascinating because they move through solid matter, but they fluctuate as they move through stone and thin air. By measuring these fluctuations in the detectors, researchers can form a clear picture of subterranean structures. Think of it like a really complicated X-ray using cosmic particles. Pretty cool, huh? Neapolis is almost entirely inaccessible. The majority of ruins are under a densely populated Italian neighborhood. There's no way to dig up the ruins because that would mean tearing down houses and businesses. There's only a small part of the ruins available because of water cisterns made during the 16th century, and a small other section exposed during the construction of bomb shelters in the Second World War. Using muography, scientists identified an extremely deep burial chamber in the inaccessible part of the ruins. They say it's part of a necropolis that dates back to the Hellenistic period, after the death of Alexander the Great. They aren't sure who the tomb belongs to, only that it's huge, buried in an impossible spot, and likely belonged to someone of serious importance. Maybe Alexander himself. Number 9. The Gate to Hell. Did we find the actual gate to hell? Researchers have found an ancient portal to the underworld that definitely scared people back in the day. In the ancient Phrygian city of Hierapolis, located in modern Turkey, there is a stone doorway which leads into a subterranean grotto. Researchers found the stone doorway about a decade ago and thought it was strange that someone appeared to have built a viewing platform in front of the entranceway. There was a gate once lashed to the wall of the opening, a temple built above the portal to the grotto, and some stone seating arrangements for visitors. Nice place to hang out, right? When all this is put together, we can see there was clearly some kind of show going on here. Priests coming down from the temple, people gathering in front of the entrance to the grotto, all waiting to bear witness to some incredible piece of ancient magic. Hierapolis is in a geologically volatile area. 2,200 years ago, it was believed the natural thermal springs fueled by the geological activity beneath the city had healing powers. People came from all around to bathe in the baths at Hierapolis and enjoy the healing properties of their magic water. What the Romans didn't know was that a deep fissure ran beneath their city and constantly emitted volcanic carbon dioxide. The fissure is still active, still pumping out toxic gas as a thin but visible mist. There happens to be a fissure releasing CO2 directly underneath the underground grotto. In 2011, scientists confirmed their suspicions. The carbon dioxide is still concentrated heavily enough to be deadly. Birds that get too close to the gateway die. Anyone who was to wander into the dark underground chamber would also suffocate and die. What researchers found here is a gateway to hell. Romans likely sat in the stone seats outside the gateway to watch animals, and maybe even people, pass into the dark depths and instantly die. Local priests probably used the gas chamber for sacrifices. Locals may have believed the misty gas coming out of the ground was the breath of the hellhound Cerberus from mythology. They probably thought that at the end of the tunnel was the way down into Hades. Anyone who tried to get down there died when they choked to death on the fumes. And now for number 8. But first, I want to give a big shout out to Anita Bonita and Wesley Ashton Reeves. Thanks so much for watching and supporting Origins Explained. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join the family. We'd love to have you. Number 8. Mini T-Rex. Scientists in China discovered the buried remains of a miniature T-Rex. Well, it wasn't that small. The fossil belonged to a creature known as a Raptorex, only about 9 feet long and 100 times smaller than the standard Tyrannosaurus Rex. Yet even though it was so much smaller in stature, it was identical physically down to its very last detail. This was like somebody hit a Tyrannosaurus Rex with a shrink ray. It had all the traits that made T-Rex such a formidable hunter. Dr. Paul Serino from the University of Chicago says it was jaws on legs, a small yet feisty creature. It had the same ferocious teeth as the bigger T-Rex, the same body structure, and even the same useless baby arms. The unexpected discovery of this tiny predator has given a unique glimpse at the evolution of one of Earth's mightiest predators. Scientists are still a bit stumped though. Raptorex doesn't make very much sense as an animal. It's too small to have the same adaptations as predators with larger bodies. The giant head, skinny arms, and muscly back legs are all found in humongous predators like T-Rex or Giganotosaurus. Raptorex was only the size of a small velociraptor, yet it was built as an absolute unit. Its muscled back legs allowed it to run at blistering speeds, while at the same time helping it to remain upright as it snapped at its victims with jaws like an angry shark. The Raptorex fossil was discovered somewhere in China, unearthed illegally and then sold on the private market. An American eye surgeon was the one who purchased the specimen. Then, realizing it had potential value to science, turned it over to the proper authorities. Now, scientists are hoping to track down where the animal was originally found so they can try to uncover more fossils. They think it lived about 125 million years ago, but still aren't sure how exactly it's connected to the T-Rex. It could be an ancient relative, an early form of evolution, or just a coincidence. Would you have turned the fossil into authorities or just kept it in your living room to show off to friends? Let me know in the comments below. Number 7. Reed Flute Cave. China's Reed Flute Cave is one of the most fascinating natural wonders in the world. It's located in Guilin, South China. The cave is not only a miracle of nature for its beautiful natural rock formations, but it's also an archaeological secret. There are over 70 inscriptions inside the cave from about 1400 years ago. The earliest descriptions date to the Tang Dynasty, which prospered between 618 and 907 AD. The cave gets its name from the reeds that grow just outside the entrance. These are special reeds, unique in that they are considered a kind of bamboo. In ancient history, these types of reeds were made for making flutes. They have a long history as musical instruments in Chinese culture. Because Reed Flute Cave is a natural source for the reeds, and because it's so beautiful, it's been a place of inspiration for musicians going back centuries. Flutists would come here to practice in complete peace and quiet, and they would journey into the cave to drown themselves in the echoes of their music. Reed Flute Cave was also used for ceremonial purposes. The 70 inscriptions found scrawled on the walls of the cave are all fairly different. Some of the inscriptions are from poems, others appear to be personal messages, and some are random people's signatures in Chinese characters. Historians have had a tough time interpreting the meaning behind the inscriptions, but think most of them are spiritual in nature. Some are mere expressions of admiration for the beauty inside the cavern. It's highly likely that people thought it was a sacred place, mystical and endowed with some magic they couldn't understand. Fun fact, Reed Flute Cave played an important role in World War II as well. It was used as a natural shelter for local residents when they were being attacked by Japan. Innocent citizens found relief in the cold stone walls of the cave as their town was being obliterated. Many of the locals who were hiding added new inscriptions to the walls as well. Would you like to visit Reed Flute Cave? I definitely would. Let me know in the comments and be sure to subscribe while you're at it. Number 6. The Buried Necropolis. For 2,000 years, the dead slept peacefully underneath a Paris train station. Well, the train station hasn't been there for 2,000 years, just the necropolis buried in the ruins of Lutetia, the town that existed prior to modern Paris. Nobody knew it was there when the train station was built. It wasn't until very recently that archaeologists uncovered the ancient necropolis beneath Port Royal Station. The station was named after Port Royal Abbey from the 17th century. The original construction completely overlooked the ancient cemetery. Only when there were plans announced to complete a renovation did the National Institute of Preventive Archaeological Research get involved. They opened a few trenches to see if there were any archaeological secrets hidden around the station. And sure enough, there were. But here's where things get even more bizarre. This was not the first time the necropolis was discovered. Camille Colonna, an anthropologist working on the project, said experts suspected the necropolis was nearby all along. Historical records show there was an ancient burial ground called the Saint Jacques Necropolis that was excavated in the 1800s. Amateur archaeologists, who were essentially grave robbers, stole all the most valuable treasures 2,000 years ago. Then they left the bones to be reburied. The site was lost again, buried under the construction of modern Paris, and it was forgotten about. This is now the second time in 200 years that the necropolis has been unearthed. Archaeologists think it was the southern necropolis of Lutetia, used as early as the 1st century AD. This was back when Paris, aka Lutetia, was a Gallo-Roman town. It was little more than a village on the edge of a mighty river. The Parisii built the city as they tried desperately to resist the Roman invasion. But by the 1st century BC, they were subjugated and Lutetia belonged to Rome. Number 5. The Tunnels of Rajasthan. The underground tunnels of Rajasthan in India were carved out of the hard earth by the Rajputs, a caste of Hindu warriors who ruled this desert region starting in the 8th century. The Rajputs came from somewhere in the northwest, no one knows exactly where, and made a name for themselves as fearless warriors. They earned a reputation across the ancient world for having unparalleled martial arts skills and unwavering bravery. They were honorable, loyal, and were the ones who carved out the mysterious tunnels beneath Rajasthan's desert. They had their own independent kingdom that lasted all the way to the 18th century. They fought against the Mughal Empire and the British, and are still around today. The Rajput bloodline is strong, with royal lineages still alive in India. But let's go back to the 8th century. That was when the Rajputs conquered Rajasthan and began carving deep subterranean passages to connect all their most important buildings. The goal of creating such a vast network of tunnels was to give the warriors secret access paths to everywhere in their domain. The tunnels were also connected to huge food storage centers and water supplies, just in case there was ever an invasion they couldn't defend against. The tunnels were constructed with expert knowledge. They have a sophisticated ventilation system, and there's enough room inside the tunnels to accommodate thousands of people. They were also originally equipped with secret chambers and booby traps to dissuade thieves. And like everything else in the ancient world, the tunnels were beautifully decorated. Arched entries, sculptures, patterns on every surface, all vividly colored. Sounds nice, right? Number 4. Treasure in a well. An incredibly rare stash of treasure from over 1,000 years ago has been found in a basement in Norway. The woman behind the discovery was doing some spring cleaning when she uncovered the subterranean hoard hiding amidst forgotten boxes and bags. The hoard itself is impressive, consisting of 32 iron ingots. They don't look like huge iron bars, but like tiny spatulas. They date back to the Viking Age, likely between 793 and 1066 AD. They might also be from the Middle Ages, prior to 1350. Each rod of iron is exactly the same, weighing approximately 50 grams. Researchers believe they were used as a simple form of currency. You could trade these iron ingots for food, services, or even human slaves. An archaeologist from the University of Oslo said perhaps somebody buried the ingots with the intention of returning for them later. Each one was pierced at the end, which suggests they were tied together in a bunch. They were originally dug out of the ground by great Margot Sorum's grandfather in the 1980s. Her father found them buried near a well behind their house and tucked them in a corner in the basement and forgot about them. Over 40 years later, Gret was cleaning out the basement when she found the iron ingots still sitting in the corner where her dad left them. The discovery is extremely rare, with nothing like it having been found in Norway in over 100 years. What you might find interesting is that the Vikings who lived in southern Norway were excellent miners. Vikings are famous these days for their sailing and raiding, but they were also farmers and miners, and ordinary people. In southern Norway, Vikings produced so much iron that they grew rich by trading their surplus to Vikings in other parts of Scandinavia, who didn't have access to the metal. Have you ever found something historical hiding away in your basement or attic? Let us know in the comments below. Number 3. St. Peter's Necropolis. St. Peter's Necropolis is one of the most controversial underground crypts in the world. Excavations began here in 1939 at the behest of Pope Pius XII. The necropolis was found all the way at the lowest part of Vatican City, down at the original foundations of St. Peter's Basilica. The basilica was built by Emperor Constantine in 313 AD. Constantine was the original Christian emperor, the one who pushed Rome into accepting Christianity and forcing it on the rest of Europe. He had the basilica built on an even older ruin, on the fragments of streets and mausoleums from 300 years prior. At the very bottom of Vatican City, down twisting corridors and past piles of rubble, 33 feet beneath the modern basilica and Michelangelo's dome, dates back to the days of Jesus Christ. The very bottom layer that we know about is from the 1st century AD. Here is a Roman necropolis with the tombs of pagans and Christians, where Vatican scientists found the bones of St. Peter. You can currently take a tour all the way to the bottom of the basilica and look at Peter's preserved physical remains and the tomb where they found him. Peter was one of Jesus Christ's closest disciples. He was the one who would go on to become the first pope after the death of Christ, then be crucified upside down by the Romans. But how does the Vatican know that the tomb and the bones belong to Peter? It's not all speculation, believe it or not. There is science involved. There is a Greek inscription that says Peter on the tomb. Its walls are covered in graffiti from early Christian pilgrims who paid tribute to the first martyr after Christ. The feet were also missing from the skeleton when scientists found it, indicative of an upside-down crucifixion. When someone was crucified in such a grotesque manner, their feet were usually chopped off to release them from the cross before burial. Pretty gruesome stuff. Number 2. The Subterranean River. The Puerto Princesa Subterranean River National Park in the Philippines became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1999. It was voted as one of the 7 wonders of nature for its unprecedented splendor. It's one of the most incredible natural places in the world, a deeply dark series of river passages twisting underground. When you take a boat through the underground river network, it feels like you are slowly floating into the underworld. The underground river is one big cave, partially sunken and stretching 15 miles. The river winds through the cave for what feels like forever, before eventually pouring out into the West Philippine Sea. You can even enter the river from the sea and sail inland while ducking the sharp mineral rock formations hanging from the ceiling. In 2010, a group of geologists came across a secondary floor in the underground river. What this means is that there are waterfalls inside the cave that take explorers to a whole other unexplored region. Researchers also found a deep water hole that goes down into unknown depths. There are other river channels that have yet to be explored, strange marine animals, and much deeper areas that can't be explored yet. The underground river becomes too dangerous at lower depths because of oxygen deprivation. You can only go so far until you start to suffocate. Number 1. A buried Viking ship. Archaeologists in Norway have discovered a fantastic secret hidden beneath a burial mound. The burial mound from the Viking Age has long been thought to be empty. People have always known the mound is there. It's a huge lump of land and very hard to miss, but nobody ever thought anything was in it. It wasn't until now that researchers used ground-penetrating radar to analyze the subterranean portion of the mound. The radar revealed a Viking ship hiding inside the mound from 1,200 years ago, buried way down at the bottom. The remains have yet to be uncovered, as nobody started digging any holes yet. But the radar analysis proves the ship is down there, buried since the 8th century AD. It was one of the first great ship burials of the Viking Age, which started in 793 AD. Viking ship burials were part of the early culture. When somebody very important died, typically a chieftain or an earl, they would be buried inside a fully sized boat. It was the Viking equivalent of the ancient Egyptians burying pharaohs beneath pyramids. There have been 3 Viking ship burials found now on the coast of the island of Karmøy. Historians are starting to think this may have been the origin of Viking culture. The region was a strategic point, somewhere with a lot of maritime traffic. We also know that the first king of Norway, Harald Fairhair, lived in a palace near here. And before that, during the Bronze Age, Karmøy was the center of political power amongst the Scandinavian tribes. Finding 3 buried boats, some of the first examples of true Viking culture, suggests Karmøy was where the Viking Age began. Thanks for watching! Would you explore the depths of the mysterious underground river in the Philippines? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and come back soon. See you later. Bye!